Okay, are you ready for this one? This story you sent in, it's really gotten people talking online.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a Reddit post from the Am I the A-hole forum, and
Oh, those are always good.
let me tell you, this one is a doozy. It involves a husband,
Okay.
a wife, a house guest, an inappropriate joke, and a whole lot of internet opinions.
Oh, my goodness. It sounds like we've got a recipe for a good deep dive here.
It definitely is, and it really gets into some of the complexities of relationships and like what's okay to share and all that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got the whole dynamic of online advice seeking, right? People are putting their personal dilemmas out there for the world to judge,
Right?
and you never know what kind of responses you're going to get.
And it's all anonymous too, so
Exactly. So it can be really insightful to see all these different perspectives, but it can also be a breeding ground for judgment and negativity.
absolutely. And in this case, we've got a husband who is feeling totally humiliated
Okay.
after his wife's friend's sister makes a joke about his penis size.
Oh, wow.
And get this,
What?
it seems like the sister got this information from the wife.
Oh, no. So we're talking potential breach of trust here.
Yeah, big time. I mean, what's acceptable to share with friends and when does it cross the line?
It's a tricky one for sure, because on one hand, you want to be able to confide in your friends and, share things with them.
Right.
But on the other hand, there are certain things that should probably stay private within a relationship.
Exactly, like intimate details about your partner's body.
Exactly. And the fact that the sister felt comfortable enough to make that kind of joke suggests that maybe the wife had shared a little too much information.
Okay, so let's get into the actual Reddit post. So the husband is describing a seemingly normal morning after his wife's friend and her sister stayed over.
Okay.
He's meeting the sister for the first time. During introductions, the sister makes a comment about women talking about sex more than men
Oh.
and implies she knows all about the husband from the wife's stories.
Okay, this is not looking good.
No, it's not. Then, out of nowhere, she makes that classic tiny gesture with her fingers,
Oh my God.
clearly referencing his penis size.
Oof. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine being in that situation, having someone publicly mock something so personal?
And not just mock it, but mock it based on information that your wife supposedly shared?
Right, like a double whammy of humiliation.
Exactly. And it's not just the joke itself that's so jarring, it's the wife's reaction. Or lack thereof.
Yeah, she kind of just laughs it off.
What does she say?
Something like, don't say that you'll give him a complex.
Oh, wow. That's not exactly the fierce defense you'd expect from your partner when someone is publicly mocking them.
No, it's not. It almost feels like she's accepting the joke as truth, or at the very least not bothered by it.
Right. Like it's not a big deal to her that her husband is being humiliated in this way.
And that's what sparked this whole debate online. Did she actually betray his trust by sharing intimate details? Or was the sister just stirring the pot, like making stuff up to get a reaction?
It's a good question. And without hearing the wife's side of the story, it's impossible to know for sure.
Right.
But either way, it raises some serious questions about how the wife handles conflict and protects her husband's feelings.
Yeah. Is she putting her friend's comfort above her husband's? Did she feel obligated to smooth things over or protect her friend's sister even at her husband's expense?
And this makes me think about the concept of emotional labor.
Oh, how so?
Well, it's often the woman in the relationship who's expected to manage these kinds of social situations,
Right, right.
to smooth things like that, to keep everyone happy. And sometimes that can mean putting their own feelings or their partner's feelings aside.
That's a really interesting point. Do you think it's possible she felt trapped in that moment and just didn't know how to react?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, calling out her friend's sister could have caused a huge scene.
Right.
And, maybe she just froze up. Or maybe she was trying to avoid conflict.
And it all happened in their home, too, a place where you should feel safe and secure.
Exactly. It's supposed to be a sanctuary, not a stage for public humiliation.
It adds another layer of violation to the whole thing.
It really does. And, the Reddit comments really reflect the range of emotions the situation evokes. There's anger, there's sympathy, there's confusion. It's all there.
Yeah, so let's get into some of those juicy comments. This first one is pretty straightforward. It says, confront your wife, dog. She's letting you hear this. Imagine what she said that you haven't heard. No true wife partner should do that to you. And don't let that shit get to your head. Keep your chin up, king.
Wow. Strong words of support there.
Yeah, very much so.
It seems like a lot of people are on the husband's side.
Definitely. And this comment reflects a common theme on Reddit, the urge to jump into action, to confront and resolve the issue head on.
It's interesting to consider what drives that response, though. Is it genuine concern for the poster? Or is there an element of wanting to see drama unfold?
Yeah, like are we as a society addicted to conflict?
It's a disturbing thought, but you're right, there is that element of entertainment on these forums. People love to see a good train wreck.
Okay, so moving on to a different perspective. This comment says, it's very possible the friend has a really crass sense of humor and your wife never said anything like that, which is maybe why she was so casual about her response. Or your wife just doesn't care who knows your business and is awful.
Okay, so a little more nuance and less about rushish judgment.
Exactly. And this comment reminds us to consider alternative explanations, to acknowledge that we don't have the full picture.
Right, we're only hearing the husband's side of the story.
Okay, ready for this next one. It's short and to the point. You know why divorces are so expensive? Because they're worth it.
Oh my God, classic Reddit.
Right. Always jumping to the most extreme solution.
But joking aside, it does reflect a societal shift towards prioritizing individual happiness and fulfillment.
Yeah, no more settling for unhappiness. Then you've got those commenters who suggest the husband retaliate with his own embarrassing jokes about the wife's body.
Oh no, fighting fire with fire.
I guess so. But as we all know, two wrongs don't make a right.
Exactly, but it does speak to that primal urge for revenge, to want to even the score when we feel wronged.
And this takes us back to that concept we were discussing earlier about punching up versus punching down.
Oh, right.
Do you think this joke landed differently because of the power dynamic between a husband feeling insecure and a group of women seemingly mocking him?
I think that's a really good point. It's rare that a joke made at the expense of someone in a less powerful position is actually perceived as funny.
Right. It's usually just seen as cruel.
Exactly. And in this case, the husband is clearly the one in a vulnerable position. He's feeling embarrassed and exposed.
And the women are the ones with the power in this situation.
Exactly. So the joke comes across as much more hurtful than if it had been made in a different context.
It makes me wonder if the reaction both from the people in the story and online would be different if the genders were reversed. Would it be considered just as offensive if the husband had made a similar comment about the wife's body?
That's a really important question to consider, and it highlights how deeply ingrained these societal expectations around gender and humor can be. It's almost like there's this unspoken rule that it's okay to make jokes about men's bodies.
Yeah, especially in this kind of context, like a group of women just like casually making fun of a guy.
Right, but if the roles were reversed, I have a feeling people would be outraged.
Totally. It would be seen as completely unacceptable.
And that double standard speaks volumes about how we view masculinity and the pressures men face to conform to certain physical ideals.
Yeah, it's like their worth is being tied to their penis size.
Exactly, which is obviously ridiculous and harmful.
It is. And it's a good reminder that body shaming can be damaging no matter who it's directed at.
Absolutely. Words can have a real impact, even if they're intended as a joke.
So how does all of this relate back to the listener who sent in this story? What can we learn from this public dissection of their relationship trauma?
Well, I think it underscores the importance of open communication, especially when it comes to setting boundaries in a relationship.
Yeah, like what are you comfortable sharing with others? What topics are off limits?
Exactly. These are conversations every couple should have to ensure that both partners feel respected and protected.
And if something happens that makes you feel uncomfortable, like in this case, it's crucial to address it directly with your partner rather than seeking validations or solutions from strangers online.
Right, because ultimately those strangers don't know the intricacies of your relationship.
They're just offering opinions based on a snapshot of the situation.
Exactly. It's like trying to diagnose a medical condition based on a single symptom. You're not going to get an accurate picture.
And there's also that element of anonymity that can make people bolder and less empathetic online.
Oh, totally. People say things they would never say to someone face.
Right, it's like they're hiding behind a screen and they feel like they can say whatever they want without consequences.
And that can create a really distorted sense of reality.
So going back to those Reddit comments, do you think there's anything valuable to be gleaned from them? Or is it all just noise?
Well, I think it can be helpful to see a range of perspectives. Even if you don't agree with all of them, it can challenge your own assumptions and make you think about things from different angles.
Like that comment about the wife potentially just trying to diffuse an awkward situation.
Exactly. It's a reminder that there might be motivations we're not aware of, that people's actions aren't always malicious.
Right. Sometimes it's just a matter of miscommunication or different ways of handling conflict.
And maybe the wife genuinely didn't think the joke was that big of a deal.
I mean, everyone has a different sense of humor, right?
Totally. What one person finds offensive, another might brush off.
And that's where the importance of communication comes in again.
Absolutely. It's about being able to have those open and honest conversations with your partner about what you're comfortable with, what your boundaries are, and how to handle situations that make you feel uneasy.
It's like a constant work in progress.
It is. Relationships take effort and understanding.
So instead of just focusing on who's right or wrong in this particular situation, maybe the bigger takeaway is the importance of building a strong foundation of trust and communication in any relationship.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's about recognizing that conflict is inevitable, but how you handle it can make all the difference.
And that sometimes the best advice comes from within, from truly understanding yourself and your partner, rather than relying on the opinions of strangers online.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that inner compass, that sense of what feels right for you in your relationship, even when it goes against the grain of what everyone else is saying.
Yeah, it's like you got to trust your gut. You know what feels right for you.
Exactly. And this particular deep dive, with all its messy details and, conflicting opinions, it's really highlighted that point. It's easy to get caught up in the drama and jump to conclusions. But taking a step back and considering the nuances, the motivations, the unspoken pressures, that's where the real learning happens.
So for you listening, what do you take away from all this? Do you side with the husband who feels betrayed? Do you empathize with the wife who might have just been trying to manage a difficult situation? Or do you see the friend's sister as the real villain of the story?
I don't think it's about assigning blame. It's more about recognizing that everyone involved is playing a role in this complex dynamic. And that's true for any conflict, really. There are always multiple perspectives, multiple layers of interpretation.
And this whole idea of the joke landing differently depending on who's telling it, that really stuck with me. It makes you think about how our own biases and experiences shape our perception of what's funny and what's offensive.
Absolutely. And it challenges us to be more mindful of the impact our words and actions can have, even when we don't intend to cause harm.
This deep dive has been a wild ride. It started with a seemingly simple question, am I the a-hole? But it's opened up a Pandora's box of issues surrounding trust communication, gender dynamics, and, the ever-evolving landscape of relationships in the digital age.
It's a reminder that even the most seemingly mundane situations can hold profound lessons if we're willing to dig a little deeper, to look beyond the surface and explore the complexities of human interaction.
And that's what we're all about here, right? Taking those deep dives.
Exactly.
A huge thank you to you for sending in this thought-provoking story. It's given us and hopefully all our listeners a lot to ponder.
It definitely has.
Until next time, keep those submissions coming. And remember, sometimes the messiest situations offer the most valuable insights.